If you want to communicate with your brand in WhatsApp or on text, you should be able to do so in your choice of language that you feel most comfortable in. So we have this technology that enables an agent to speak 75 different languages in 200 dialects. And it is literally real-time language translation.
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. My guest today is Harry Folloder. Harry is the Chief Digital and Technology Officer of Alorica, a global customer experience leader with more than 110,000 employees operating in 19 countries with over $2 billion in annual revenue. In that role, he runs technology in a very tech-savvy organization. I look forward to hearing more about how he and his team leverage technology to empower people, the power of artificial intelligence and GenAI more specifically in a setting such as his. And I look forward to hearing how his legal background has been helpful as he has ascended to his current post as well. Harry, welcome to Technovation. Great to speak with you today.
Peter, I can't thank you enough for having me on the show today. Really appreciate it. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
I'm glad you finally called. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation, Harry. You're too kind. Well, Harry, let's begin with your company. I mentioned you're the Chief Digital and Technology Officer. We'll get into your role in a moment. Talk a bit about Alorica for those people who may be less familiar with it.
Absolutely. Alorica is the global innovative leader in customer experience outsourcing. Traditionally, it's been referred to as BPO or business process outsourcing. But as the industry has gone through transformation, so have we, and we hopefully been leading the charge. Our founder, Andy Lee, and his wife, Joyce Lee, started the company in 1999, and since then have grown it into one of the most technically advanced and largest customer experience shops in the world. Today, like you said, very, very well under the intro, we operate in over 19 countries, a little bit over 110,000 employees. And we aim to and strive to offer our clients the best customer experience for their customers in the most innovative way, but most importantly, in the ever-evolving way that their customers are demanding to be interacted with in all the channels, in all the different ways, whether it's through self-service, quick, efficient in their choice of language and their choice of channel.
Well said. I appreciate that overview. Talk a bit about your role as Chief Digital and Technology Officer. What's within your purview, Harry?
Yeah, you bet. I have my dream job here. I'm really grateful to my boss, Mike Clifton and Max Schwedner, and then of course our founder, Andy Lead, for literally putting the trust in me to lead the innovation of this company forward in its transformative way. I get to come to work every day and think about how are ways that we can apply AI in our business to empower humans and to increase the experience I talked about. So in the purview is the entire transformation shop. Mike Clifton, who I believe was a previous esteemed guest on the show, I took the reins over from him as he ascended to the co-CEO role. And in the transformation office, we are responsible for thinking and executing the way we do business for our clients and customers differently. And that's not just for efficiency gains. That's not just for cost savings. And those are kind of table stakes, I believe, these days. But it's how we can create an ultra personalized experience, super power our human agents, because I think, we believe we're empowering humans, not replacing them with technology, but at the base of it all, providing a secure and trusted experience, because the perpetuous fraud attempts in the world today, specifically in an industry where you're having to trust somebody you've never met over the phone to give them maybe some information. You're expecting this stranger over the phone, over text, to help you. And there's this really interesting psychological, I call it an experiment, but this trust that's built pretty much immediately because you're calling a brand and you're expecting that brand to help you. You're not thinking about where the person's located. You're not thinking about who they are. They're a representative of that brand to help you. So there's this immediate trust built. And we take that very seriously. We talk about tech stacks, and I'm sure a lot of guests on your show talk about tech stacks. We talk about tech stacks all the time, but the insertion of trust and safety, and how do we make sure that each and every interaction is a safe and trusted one on top of all the other expectations in this pyramid of ever-evolving responsibilities occur. So that's just part of my day. And we, from a syndicated shop, We try to execute on that every day for all of our clients, and we're constantly really thinking differently about how can we insert analytics, how can we insert insights, how can we insert a better verification methodology to establish that trust, and most importantly, what does the customer need? How can we help them get off this call, get off this chat with the problem solved?
Harry, that's an interesting point you raise, and it brings to mind something you once told me in one of our prior conversations, which is that you're a believer that technology should empower people, that is employees and customers alike. And I wonder, can you offer some of the key ways in which that's done from your perspective?
Awesome. That's an excellent question. Absolutely. Starting with the agent side and with the human that we employ around the world, how do we insert technology to make their lives better in every interaction, whether it be answering a customer's question or even for them getting information about the benefits that Alorica offers, right? So if you look at it from how they actually do their job, we're utilizing GenAI to institute in real time and near time predictive answers to their interaction. So if a customer calls in and says, I need help with fixing my TV, and this is my TV model, we have bots that are listening into that conversation, transcribing in real time. And as the customer's talking, the agent sees what we call agent assist. The TV model, the knowledge base starts to populate with all the different manuals possibly. And as the customer further explains what they're calling about, then it's actually in real time going through all of these knowledge bases and starting to answer the questions. So the agent is now super powered. They don't have to process what the customer said and then go look something up. It's all being provided to them. But the most important part is it's not automatically provided to the customer. There's still that super powered agent that makes the determination of the logic of, hey, it's power, or if it's a mounting thing, and all the answers are right there for them. So the olden days of them having to search a SharePoint site or search a bunch of PDFs and read into the PDFs, that's all gone. Within a matter of milliseconds, the answers are at their fingertips to empower them to actually create that trust relationship I talked about and help that customer get an answer to their question immediately. So on the business side, just a small example of how we are empowering that agent with superhuman tech. But on the employee side, it's just as important to empower agents to be a great employee because we are a huge believer in work-life balance. One of the proudest things about Alorica that I love and that this company has been founded on, and Joyce Lee is our chief culture officer, and it's something that she's super passionate about. So the culture around helping employees be successful, from maybe it's their first job, maybe it's their career path, helping them understand benefits, helping them understand how can you become a Six Sigma black belt, a green belt, a yellow belt, while still working here. So there's a tremendous amount of information that we make available, and it's all available inside our internal applications. Same response. How do we become a green belt? Well, we now have a system internally that our architects have done to be able to answer that and get them directly to that knowledge base to help improve their career. So just a little example on the work side, but also on the personal side as well, making their lives better through tech.
Great examples. And I know, again, from past conversations that extends to, I mentioned in the introduction, 19 countries you're in, a variety of different languages represented, needless to say. You're also a big believer in the power of latest technology to be able to facilitate real-time translation. Can you talk a bit about how that's becoming a game changer for you?
Absolutely. I just a funny aside. So in high school, we were required to take a foreign language, and in college as well. I chose Spanish from Texas, makes the most sense. And I always remember, or let's see, my mother never lets me forget, let me put it that way, that in order to get extra credit and pass Spanish, because my Spanish speaking abilities were muy malo, I would always bake the Spanish teacher at my high school a cake for extra credit. I don't remember this, but evidently I did. And she's like, you passed Spanish through your baking skills. I'm like, well, I guess there's two ways to skin a cat here. So and it is a barrier. So I've had the pleasure of traveling the world and in this job and others. And the largest barrier is always the human to human connection of language. And we're lucky as I think a society in America to have English be a really pervasive language throughout the world, and we're kind of spoiled in that manner and take it for granted a little bit. But having an ability to connect somebody locally makes a big difference. Again, we talked about that trust. So in aura of building that trust over the phone, how can we help that? And we said, you know what, if we can take that language barrier out and actually have it be a real-time conversation like you and I are talking here, that would help tremendously. So we set out on that mission under what we call Alorica Clear, which is kind of our strategy of helping clear any obstacles in communications. And we launched the product called Revolt. And it is literally real-time language translation, because as you very well said, we really believe that it's the customer's choice of language and the customer's choice of channel. If you want to communicate with your brand in WhatsApp or on text or on SMS or iMessage, you should be able to do so in your choice of language that you feel most comfortable in. So we have this technology that enables an agent to speak 75 different languages in 200 dialects. And the dialect is super important because if you speak Spanish, there's multiple dialects of Spanish. And we even went further working with tech partners and our incredible solution architects at Alorica and said, hey, that's great. It's groundbreaking, but we also need to do grammar correction in real time. Because if I would say, hey, Peter, how's your coffee this morning? It grammatically in English, that sounds, well, I'm definitely not the greatest grammatic speaker in English, let alone anything else. But in another language, the grammar's not right. So we have to be able to, in real time, fix the grammar with the language and deliver it in less than 500 milliseconds in natural speech. And we're able to do that now. Hence, as a brand, as a company, you don't have to have 18 language queues. If you look at it from a business and value perspective, you don't have to have 18 queues and staff those queues with language speakers that might have high turnover. You're always training. It's a lot of cost, a lot of management. Now you can have super powered, hence, you can see continued theme here, super powered humans that know the most about standard operating procedures, know the most about the product knowledge, and now can communicate it to any customer in the world, regardless of language, in a clear manner that is trusted because I'm talking their language. And it's in its infancy, but we're having a tremendous amount of success. We've had some really great partners that have trusted it in us to pilot with, and just really having a tremendous amount of success, both on the client side, but also the customer side, because these are the product experts, the brand experts. They don't need to go look up something anymore. They don't even need the agent assist sometimes. They just know it because they live and breathe their client's brand.
I could certainly see how that would facilitate better communication, but also trust building, as you noted, which is such an important currency for a business like yours.
Yes, absolutely. And you said, with any channel, right? So that's real-time voice. We, the same capabilities as exist in all the other digital channels as well, like I talked about. So being able to truly empower all of our customers to offer their clients, you tell me what channel you want, you tell me what language you want, and that's how we're going to service you.
That's fantastic. I know you're driving, more generally speaking, a lot of innovation through AI and Gen AI more specifically. And I wonder, can you talk a bit about some of the most compelling use cases that you've identified?
It's an interesting landscape. It's a fantastic and astute question, because the changing expectations of the consumer market, just like in business over time, are even faster today than yesterday. It's almost like Moore's law, but for consumers. And their expectations increase twofold all the time, especially with the consumerization of ChatGPT. Everyone expects the world to be that easy. So we've had the fortune of Andy Lee is such a tech maven. He has partnered with incredible VCs on some of the bleeding edge tech to talk about conversational AI, to talk about inserting AI at the very front of the equation through different investments to be able to offer the self-service in a holistic natural language experience. So I think the biggest use case that we've seen and we're seeing a lot of traction with, and internally we're seeing a lot of use cases and success with, is conversational AI. And it's the ability for you to have a natural language conversation with a bot, but you don't know it's a bot, besides the disclaimer. for my regulatory friends out there. The voice itself, the AI generated voice, it's not synthetic anymore. You don't have this robotic tinniness. It is truly a human voice that is indiscernible from you and I talking. Well, me, because I'm a programmer, you can really tell it's me. Bot much better than me. But you can have a complete conversation and have your question answered, have it email it to you in a language, all done within a matter of a few minutes without ever needing to speak to an agent. So you got a business value proposition side, but most importantly, on the consumer side, I've now been able to solve my own problem, had a great experience with almost no latency, and I'm a happy camper. I'm ready to go. And that's probably right now the biggest use case on the forefront. And maybe after the podcast, I can give you a little secret show on how that works.
I'll look forward to that. Very, very nice. I wanted to mention also you coyly reference your friends in compliance and perhaps by extension legal. You have a legal background, which is an unusual thing for a person running tech and digital for an organization. Talk a bit about how that served you. Are there ways in which you're incorporating that background even in the work you do today?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm very proud of it. It was a fantastic education, but I think when we first met, I always introduced myself as, I'm a recovering, I'm a recovering attorney. It is a fantastic education for me personally. It was not the best career path, but the way that it taught me to think, the way that it actually taught me to approach a topic, and more importantly, I'll say argue the topic, but think critically around all aspects of it has helped me throughout my entire career. And more importantly, contract negotiations with different vendors and a strategic thinking that I didn't capture in university. As I went through and got my degree in genetics and more science focused, I never even some and had to the required business courses like, yeah, you just can't be a big science nerd. You actually have to expand your horizons and, take Spanish or bake cakes. But it taught me to think in a very different manner than I was trained to for a long time. And that has served me incredibly well in a lot of different arenas, from negotiations to writing skills, but also critical thinking skills. There are some really great, you don't have to go to law school. There are some really great courses on business law, on contract law. There's some micro courses you can take. And anyone in business who hasn't explored that, I'd really say take a course. It really helps you think differently. And in business, it's very critical to come at it from all different sides. I think it's really helped me in my career progress and have different conversations at different levels. And most importantly, annoy the general counsel at pretty much any company I've ever been to. It's also one I take pride in.
Well, speaking of having an unusual background, you helped pay for college by being a firefighter and a paramedic, and you've remained involved in your community as well as serving as a fire commissioner. Talk a bit about what you've gained through these experiences as well, Harry. I find that to be such a fascinating aspect of your background,
Thanks.
and a
You
noble
know,
one as well, I might add.
well, thank you. I just like running into burning buildings. I couldn't help. I couldn't explain. I think it comes through my upbringing. I was really fortunate and blessed and I still have a wonderful family. My mom and dad, I had one of three boys raised in Texas, and my mom was from New York. My dad was a native Texan, and the cross culture was interesting even as a kid. But there was one common theme in our heritage around giving back, helping. I mean, I remember as a kid, my dad would take us to oh man, the telethons to raise money for different towards we might that's at 8, I was sitting taking phone calls and being part of the community. And I think that pervasively throughout my entire life has always been ingrained, and I wanted to give back. So through college, and I'm very fortunate to have my father and mother help me through that, but also it just was a natural thing. I wanted to help people, and it ended up being a great job throughout college, being a firefighter, and ended up, a paramedic, which is a path from emergency medical technician or EMTs. You go from basic to intermediate to paramedic. And I wanted to be a doctor. I had my grandmother, like, you need to be a doctor or a lawyer. Well, I got what I wanted out of being a doctor by being a paramedic and helping people. I helped a lot of people. I mean, literally from, people performing CPR, literally saving lives at 18 and 19. It was a very interesting experience to be able to go through all that. But again, all these life experiences have helped me throughout, I think, my career, critical thinking, crisis management, even I had the opportunity to go to Texas A&M Fire Academy, which is one of the best in the world, and do mass casualty incident training. And they have this incredible field. If you ever Google it, they have 747 set up. They have a whole train scene set up where actually you go learn how to be an incident commander on some of the worst catastrophes you can imagine, but how to deal with it so that if anything ever comes to it, it's second nature. So understanding chain of command, understanding triage, so on and so forth. And it's weird, but I actually apply those in my business methodologies as well. So it was great helping while I studied to be able to do that. Plus, I got to drive some cool trucks with lights and sirens, which is always, at 18 and 19 and 20 was super fun too. And then pervasively, I've been an appointed and elected official. I was a fire commissioner where I used to live. Just this ability and innate ability to give back to the community is really important. And where we just moved, I had I was suckered into becoming the HOA president. So it just continues. I can't say no. But basically, I just can't say no. But I think my three girls have actually taught me just not to say no to them. So unfortunately, I think it's progressed everywhere now. But I think community is one of the most important things, and giving back to that community is just paramount to having a better society and a great place and to raise your kids, have a family, have a community that stays connected and looks out for each other. And how can you participate? So I try to participate in bringing my skill sets that I've learned throughout life in different manners to make that community better.
Does your proximity to life and death through the service that you've had provide you a different sort of perspective in your business life? Do you
Yeah.
find that it's something that translates from that perspective as well, Harry?
Peter, it's a really deep question. I do. It's a great question, and I think everyone can experience that, through manners that I talked about. But I think the bigger one is my firstborn children, my twins, were born at 23 weeks, and in Texas, that's literally the cusp of viability. So 17 weeks early, they were born, and we were actually offered a decision. Do we save them or not? So I mean, new parents are like, wait, what? What's the question? And that was literally the start of a journey we didn't know we were going to be on. But, I'm a big believer that God doesn't give you more than you can handle. And you just don't know how big your shoulders are yet until someone helps show you. So that was an experience unlike other, because for the first 9 months of their life, daily was a fight for life or death. 75 surgeries in the first year of their life. I think my wife and I were living in the NICU floor, and that experience kind of topped all the others and has really allowed me to not only see the best in every situation, which transpires to work, but help people overcome any challenge, because that was a challenge that continues to be a lifelong challenge for my first two kids, because they're both totally blind, and some other opportunities. But watching them succeed with all the impediments that they have and all the other things they deal with. My son reads and writes Braille. He's in high school. He's mainstreamed. My daughter went through, I think you and I talked about, they only perform, it's called a hemispectomy. It's like a 29-hour surgery. They literally removed half of her brain. And she's the happiest kid, the happiest kid. She gets through life's challenges with a smile all the time. And about all my life experiences, watching them go through life and do what they do, the hard things they do with a smile, that makes me overcome any obstacle at work. Anything in my career path since I had my twins has been really taken on with a very different mindset. If they can do that, this is nothing. I got it. And then hopefully inspiring my teams, my peers, my leaders with that same mentality of, hey, we got this. Like, we can do this. Let's get a plan. Let's execute it. This ain't brain surgery. That's my team always laughs. Like, yeah, we know, Harry. We know. It's an inspiring moment I always like to share with people, because nothing's insurmountable. You can as a human with AI powered, kidding. Well, as a human, you can overcome anything that's put in front of you, but you got to address it with the right mentality and the outcome of, I know I can do it, and I have a village to do it with me.
Yeah, what a moving and inspiring story, Harry. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm really grateful that you would. I wanted to ask you, I mean, we've talked about a number of trends of consequence. I wonder, are there any others that we haven't touched on that are particularly intriguing to you, perhaps making their way onto your personal or professional roadmap? What comes to mind?
Watching society ingest technology at a pace where I won't include you as nerds, but you're welcome to join the club. As us nerds have for a long time seen the advent of what technology can do and inject into your normal life is really fascinating. And there's an inflection point where is it doing too much? Just because you can do it with tech, should you? And I think a lot of those points are coming. I don't know if we're giving that credence enough. If you look at, from elections to, I mean, even, when I go to my friends, when I go to some of our friends' homes, and this is the best one, Peter. I think you'll appreciate this. So, had a friend who built a house and he's giving us a tour of his house, very proud about it. And we walk into the master bath and he's like very excited to show it. He's like, look, he pulls up his phone and he turns the shower on with his phone. I'm like, but why? Like, why? Like, I get it, but why? And inside the shower, there's an LCD panel, and I'm like, water, electricity. Why just
That's what I was thinking.
as no knobs, everything is touchscreen. I'm like, and he's like, oh, there's the controller, which is in the wall over here, and there's an access panel behind the toilet. I'm like, that people like me have a job in tech because this stuff doesn't work all the time. And that's why there's this whole industry where I have a job because we fix things but like, really, do you really need that kind of tech in a shower? And I use that as an example. I find it humorous that anyone would think that you need to turn your shower on with a phone and replace all knobs, like just valve on, valve off, right? Why? So I use that as a perfect example of, do you really need tech there? And I think that's we got like the world's gone in my mind a little crazy, right? Like, just because we have tech to insert everywhere doesn't mean we have to insert tech everywhere. There's a funny meme like, do you really need a screwdriver connected to the internet? Really? Because now I have to learn IPv6 because all the screwdrivers are taking up all the IP addresses. Now I got to learn IPv6 protocol. Like, come on, guys. So there's this avenue of the insertion of tech and connectivity in everything we do. I just don't think that we have a great grasp on security and cybersecurity and understanding that there are risks associated with decisions by insertion of tech everywhere. And I think that we've kind of gone all the way to tech and everything. And I think that there has to be some centering of what makes sense to have a great experience, provide a great value, but most importantly, be safe. And that's why, I'll bring it back to, that's why we really believe in like superpowering humans. Humans shouldn't go away. We should utilize technology in the best manner to create the best outcomes. That doesn't mean always putting tech or AI in your shower.
It's refreshing to hear a technology leader making the case for analog technology where that's applicable. I think it's a great point that can be taken too far, to say the least.
For anyone out there who's in plumbing, I love shower valves. It's a great thing. On, off, like they work. It's just on, close the circuit, open the circuit. I think it's great. I think it's a great old school tech.
There you go. There you go. I also wondered, Harry, is there anything you've recently read, listened to, and or watched that you would recommend to your peers? What comes to mind, if anything?
That's a great question. With 4 kids, I don't have a lot of time to watch TV. So it's pretty much on the go. But I do occasionally when I travel, I get to partake in either a book or something. So there's actually a book I send some people. And in a previous life, when I did a lot of research on EMP devices, electromagnetic pulse devices, and protection of, it's a fiction book, but there's some nonfiction in it because the research is real that went into it. I got to find the name of it. I can follow up with the name of it. But it actually goes into it talked about where you have a connected world and an EMP device goes off in the subatmosphere, and within a moment, everything that has a chip in it no longer works. And what does society do that's been so reliant on tech operating everything? And now if that tech goes away in a moment's notice, what happens to society and how does it recover? It's a fascinating read. It's a heart-jerking read at some points, but it's not far from the truth because there's a lot of research that goes into actually that happening. So that's more on the what can be side. And then I'm always reading tech books. There's a book out called The Dark Wire, which is about a true story about the US government's largest surveillance campaign of organized crime units. And it involves technology where there's this, and it's real, it's all true story, it's all back court documents about how a secret BlackBerry network was used amongst organized crime globally to coordinate malicious activities, and how the FBI infiltrated it and took down a tremendous amount of organized crime throughout the world. So if you're fascinated by espionage and surveillance and SIGINT, it's a great book because it's all real, and it's a fascinating read called The Dark Wire. So I'm in the middle. I'm almost to the end of that.
By chance, is the first book 1 second after?
Yes, I believe that is.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Excellent. No, good recommendations both. I appreciate that, Harry. And Harry, thank you for a great conversation all around. It's inspiring to learn more about your life, your background, the ways in which you draw upon your various experiences to inform the way in which you lead. A really inspiring conversation. Thank you so much for taking time with me today.
Peter, thank you for having me on here. I really appreciate the time, but more importantly, what you do for leaders like myself and others. I mean, we get to hear about the lives and the inspirations of so many others that we might not even know about. And when you interviewed Mike Clifton, my boss, hearing things on your show that I hadn't known about him was fascinating and fantastic. So continue to please do what you do, and whatever we can do to help support that, we will. But thank you for the time and really the platform today to have a great conversation with you.
Thank you, Harry. I appreciate that.